Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TLC Academy. This is Alan Susi, the Director of Nursing at TLC, and I'm very happy that you've joined us to undertake a presentation by Sharon McCarthy on the concepts of agoraphobia, which is an interesting anxiety disorder that Sharon's going to elaborate on, and just the general points of view about anxiety disorders as they come about in our world. So I hope you'll listen intently and conscientiously think about yourself in relation to some of these topics. You may know someone in your own life who suffers something like this, or you may know someone in your life that you're caring for who exhibits some of these things. So with that said, I'll turn this over to Sharon and give her the opportunity to tell us what she wants us to know. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Good morning. Agoraphobia is an anxiety disorder that often manifests itself in the fear of leaving one's home, or the fear of certain environments and situations that a person feels dangerous or uncomfortable, such as social situations, driving, shopping, or vast openness or crowds. The term agoraphobia comes from the Greek word agora, which means fear of the marketplace. Agoraphobia is defined by the DSM as a panic disorder. This involves fear of incurring a panic attack in any of the above situations. The person suffering from this condition will often go to great lengths to avoid any situation that causes anxiety, and in severe cases becomes housebound. Home becomes a safe place in their mind. The symptoms are fear of being alone, fear of crowded places, fear of not being able to escape, feeling stuck if panic occurs, fear to leave home alone, may leave if accompanied by someone. That's interesting. They may not leave at all, or they may leave with someone if they have someone that is a support person. They have fear of losing control. They become very despondent or very dependent on others and can become despondent. There's a sense they cocooning themselves, surrounding with stuff to feel safe, physical and emotional sensations that at times are overwhelming and debilitating. What are the causes? A number of things can cause this dilemma. A repeated exposure to stress and anxiety and panic attacks, genetic components, dysfunctional family dynamics, traumatic event or events over a period of time, emotional or physical trauma. What is the treatment? Treatment is cognitive therapy, relaxation techniques, desensitization, which is exposure therapy, identifying fears and working through. Fear is often masking conflicting emotions, unrelated to what one thinks they fear. This can be challenging to treat because one of the solutions is confronting the fears, and most are unwilling to do so. Or at least it is very difficult and can take years to work through, with what I call proactive therapy, meaning working with a therapist and facing fears, and cognitive behavioral talk therapy. Cognitive therapy can help to challenge and reduce the irrational thoughts that contribute to the condition, and desensitizing by being exposed slowly to the feared situations with a sponsor. This is important when working with someone experiencing this, regardless of age, as well as caregivers for the elderly, because they need compassion and understanding. It is often a very real condition, as they are not just being difficult. This can be a challenge for families and loved ones. Often there is anger and resistance for the caregiver and the person who is experiencing this anxiety. The answers are in acceptance and letting go of that catastrophic thinking, which takes time and hard work with a therapist, understanding fears and anger and the origins of. Proactive therapy, getting involved and willing to do the footwork and understand the family dynamics, experiences, and wrong thinking that often have a part in this manifesting itself over time. Summary for overcoming. It is my conviction that agoraphobia and anxiety is an emotional bondage masking itself in physical symptoms, panic attacks, which in effect renders a person hostage to his emotions. A very real physical occurrence brought on by stress and the way we view our world. The chemical changes that take place in the brain can cause panic. One is afraid to look at the reality of one's life, which is denial. in any number of things regarding beliefs and relationships and life itself. Often there is a whirlwind of emotions of anger, resentment, guilt, frustration at oneself and others, not always, but often. It has to do with the way we perceive things, and the way we perceive things may not necessarily be the way things truly are. Reality of, the truth of, only the way it appears to be, to us. Can we always trust our emotions? This is where re-educating our thinking and our life circumstances is extremely helpful in balancing the thinking to get well. When we are not under the stress of emotion, the brain chemistry balances itself, and we begin to see the world differently, taking steps to get well. There is controversy about depression, anxiety, and mood disorders as being perhaps genetic or a chemical imbalance. This is true in some cases. However, often in others where one is dealing with anxiety disorders, it is evident that the anxiety will subside once a person feels safe. In a non-threatening environment. So what does that tell us? That we can control our brain chemistry, we can control our brain chemistry in the way we think and view the world around us and our circumstances. There is no anxiety when we feel safe, so our thinking, our emotions control our health. Our body follows our mind. Wrong thinking causes chemical imbalance. Our brains are like computers. Memory and thoughts are very complex. When we are in emotional turmoil, our brain short circuits in a way. It makes sense that if we are in a weakened state, run down, under stress, or at high intense stress levels, or addicted to a chemical substance or alcohol, etc., imbalance can occur. Moderation is key to anything, of course. We all live with the consequences and choices of ourselves and others. Knowing that our actions and others' actions or beliefs were all that was available to us at the moment in time. Forgiveness of ourselves and others. Authentically letting go of the past. Renewed perspectives. We cannot change our past, but we can change our view of it and know that it no longer needs to be relevant in our life. Live in the moment going forward. Live in the now. If we are experiencing anxiety and panic, it is a call to reflect perhaps. Things are not always as they appear to be in our life or others' lives. It's so important to take this into consideration as a caregiver. Very important in the way we respond to those that we are living with or taking care of. Recognition of what another may be dealing with that seems to be overwhelming. Awareness of struggles that may be occurring. Compassion in the field is essential. Stepping into another person's shoes, seeing life from their perspective, whether you agree with it or not. It is a lot easier for a younger person who has so much time ahead of them to maybe begin to be reflective and look within to change their life, as to become productive and happy and healthy. It is entirely different when we are dealing with someone who has lived their life, a loved one or a client who is set in their ways and sees life the way they see life. I heard someone say recently that it's their story and they're sticking to it, so it's kind of interesting. We also need humor, a little bit of humor. In this case, the path of least resistance is the obvious choice. The best advice to give someone who is experiencing panic or anxiety is to not feed fear into fear. Go with it. It will pass. Deep breathing, support, encouragement. Do not criticize them, as what they are feeling is very real to them in the moment. Healing comes with acceptance and proactive therapy, facing the fears, with a support person, only if one is willing to do so. We should never force. Cognitive therapy and counseling is very important. It takes hard work to overcome our life's history and how we see the world. This is an individual choice. And we all can decide either to be a victim or a victor of our life and our circumstances, remembering that no one has it so great. Everyone has struggles. No one is alone in that, for sure. There's some recommended reading. Mental Health Through Will Training is the title of a book by Abraham Lowe. This book discusses how we can change our body and mind's response to stress by changing our catastrophic thinking. that negativity and that train wreck that some of us can get into in our thoughts. So we change that catastrophic thinking to so what? Turn the what ifs into so what? Eventually, when you get to a place where you're more balanced, that's so much easier to do. An anxiety attack is often the result of a situational stressor, such as the loss of a job, a divorce, the death of a loved one, or any high-stress situation. A panic attack, on the other hand, does not come in reaction to a stressor. It is often unprovoked and unpredictable. The individual is often seized with terror, fear, and apprehension. They may feel like they are going to die, lose control, or have a heart attack. And this fear is very real. In addition, there are many physical symptoms and sensations. There's chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, nausea, and a lot of anticipatory anxiety, which is the what if, catastrophic thinking. They will start avoiding places, people, situations, perhaps where the first attack was experienced. How do we support someone who's experiencing anxiety in any form? Putting pressure on someone who is anxious can lead to more anxiety. Power and control issues in a relationship can exacerbate the problems. They need acceptance, kindness, unconditional love, and compassion. Healing is possible, but it takes time and patience for the person experiencing this and the family. As a caregiver, it is essential that we be patient and kind and never force solutions. If one is willing, cognitive behavioral therapy is very helpful over time. Changing diet, no caffeine, additives, sugar, more natural and organic if possible, and deep breathing exercises are very helpful. Holistic approach with vitamins, massage therapy, exercise, reading up on solutions and natural cures, mindfulness, yoga, meditation, connecting with nature through Tai Chi perhaps, positive affirmations such as I am healthy, I am well, thinking positive, connecting with your higher power, I am a child of God, healing music, whatever stills our mind. There was a quote recently that I heard someone speaking who described his journey of discovery. He called it discovery, not recovery, but his journey of discovery through reading and stepping inside others' experiences. That is very powerful, to look inside others' lives and see how they have overcome. You realize that you are not alone. Many have experienced and many have gotten well, but it is a decision to do what it takes to change what is happening, to know it is possible. As I referred to earlier, the recovery book, Mental Health Through Will Training, describes the feelings of anxiety and how to counter our thinking and how we see the experience. It is how we think. He talks a lot about that in this book. That the thinking causes our physical reactions because our body follows our mind, and we can change that. This book was written in the 1950s, as I said, and it's difficult to find, but it can be found online. If one understands and believes that we are energy, as well as spiritual beings, we see the connection between our thoughts and what happens and transpires in our world. If we look at alternate therapies and healing, other than the mainstream medicine, and address sickness, health, and emotional disorders today, there are many natural and holistic ways of healing from the past that were accepted as the norm. Mindfulness and positive thoughts are powerful. Our words that are spoken are powerful because they create energy, and energy creates vibration that affects our bodies. If we think about it, what is disease? Dis-ease. Not being in balance emotionally or physically, right? In 2004, the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Healing published an article by a Japanese researcher named Masaru Emoto. He set out to prove the connection between the energy that we give off with our thoughts and our words. For example, he found that ideas, music, words, thoughts affect the molecular structure of something that we think of as benign as water. And he wanted to show and prove this with his research. So we found that even the substance of water, as matter, reacted to positive and negative vibrations according to the higher or negative vibration in the room. That's very fascinating. In a similar way, repeating a positive word or phrase can alter a person's state of mind for the better, all due to the higher vibrations given off by positivity. The brain is matter and energy. I find that experiment amazing, to show how much we are impacted by our thoughts and energy that are all around us every day. So it is certainly something to think about. The best approach in dealing with others is to meet people where they are at, do no harm, and never forget where you came from. As a counselor or caregiver or someone helping others to recover, just being in a supportive role, try to put yourself in their place and remember when you have had a struggle or difficult time in life. Have compassion for what they are going through. Embark on a new approach of understanding how we are impacted by the energy around us, as well as our thoughts and words. They are actually very powerful in our well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. That was well done, and we appreciate the time you put into it and the topic itself.
Thank you.
We look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Appreciate that.